Nation, everyone. Today I'm super excited to bring to you a review and a shooting test of the Glock 44, which is chambered in .22 caliber and is essentially a replica of the Glock 19 that Glock has brought forth. Today we're actually here in Provo, Utah at Ready Gunner Firearm Range and Shop. I'm super excited that they're allowing me to be here and to film this video. We're going to be able to utilize their space and their range, and they have an amazing team here with an amazing selection of firearms and gear. I'm super excited to be here again at Ready Gunner in Provo, Utah. In today's video, we're going to hit on three components focusing on the Glock 44 chambered .22 caliber. We're going to go over the what of the gun, the speculations and information that Glock has brought forth about the gun, and we're going to compare it to the Glock 19 so we can have a good side-by-side comparison. Next, we're going to go to the range. We're going to shoot rounds through this firearm in a variety of settings to help ourselves understand what is the marksmanship, accuracy, consistency, and handling that this gun can provide. Next, after we shoot the firearm, we're going to bring it back to the classroom. We're going to talk a little bit more about our overall opinion and review of the firearm, weighing the pros and the cons, and giving you an honest opinion on whether I think this would be a good firearm to purchase and for what audience. Who really should look into purchasing this gun and maybe who should. Guys, we're going to be going over a lot of the technical data, just the what of the gun, the Glock 44. I'm going to compare and contrast with the Glock 19 because a lot of people on the market are looking to compare these guns. They are an exact replica of one another, at least visually. So we're going to walk through what is the weight difference, what is the performance difference, is this gun really going to live up to the Glock 19? Is it going to be a good training tool? Is it going to be a good resource to introduce people to the Glock 19 and just Glocks or pistols in general? So going over the technical data released by Glock, this is chambered in .22 long rifle. It's a safe action system, which we find on the trigger. So you've got the same trigger system that you're going to find on any Glock, right? Which is that 2-part safety trigger without a safety on the body. It's got a 10 round magazine capacity. Don't quite know why they did 10 and not more, especially because the counterparts have more rounds and .22 ammunition is smaller. We'll talk about a little bit more of that in my review later on. But again, 10 rounds. The barrel length is 4.02 inches, which is the exact same as the Glock 19. Now here's where things get interesting. The weight is extremely different from the Glock 19. This feels kind of like a toy when I'm holding it. It feels a lot lighter than its big brother, right, the Glock 19. So we've got 12.63 ounces without a magazine, with an empty magazine 14.64, and with a loaded magazine 16.4. So comparing that now to the Glock 19, 21 ounces empty, 23.6 ounces with an empty magazine, and 30.16 ounces with a loaded magazine. That is more than double the weight of the Glock 44. So when you're holding these two guns, one of them feels like a BB gun, one of them feels like a firearm, if I'm being completely honest with you. That being said, the grip feels the exact same. I'll talk a little bit more about this in my review, but technically speaking, those are some pretty contrasting differences there. And that's about as much as we're going to go over technically. There's not much more that you guys need to know. I have a Gen 5 Glock 19 on the table right next to the Glock 44. They're pretty much identical. When I'm looking at them, there's not much going on that's different. So when I am at least manipulating this firearm, it feels the same. We're now just going to take you right to the range. We're going to shoot these guns. We're going to show what they perform at 7 yards and 20 yards, talk a little bit about that on the range. And then I'm going to bring us back to the classroom and we'll go over our opinion or reviews of the firearm, the pros and cons, and is this worth the gun to buy? We're here at the range with the Glock 44 chambered .22 caliber. I'm super excited to put some rounds through this. We're going to do a couple of shooting tests to add to the review. I'm going to shoot 10 rounds out of this at 7 yards and then 10 rounds at 20 yards. I'm also going to have my beautiful fiance shoot 10 rounds out of this as well to show what it might look like for a smaller or a female shooter to shoot this. So we'll go ahead and shoot those rounds through the firearm. We'll talk a little bit about it, then we'll go back to the table and finish up the review. Okay, we're here at 7 yards, not super far, but pretty realistic for pistol engagements or just shooting at the range. It did pretty well. I was shooting pretty quick. I wanted to make it realistic. I wasn't going for marksmanship. but it stayed consistent and I really enjoyed shooting it. It's a 22, so you're not going to get much recoil. So this is a great shooter for females, for younger shooters, for beginners, and I enjoyed it myself. And as you can see, some of my shots were all grouping into one little location, and I was kind of just shooting with a point and shoot attitude. I wasn't really going for crazy marksmanship, and it did a really good job. I really enjoyed it. Now we're actually going to put 10 rounds at 20 yards, and we'll assess it there. Down range at 20 yards. I had some fun with this. I honestly really enjoyed shooting it. From 20 yards away, I wasn't really seeing where I was hitting, but I enjoyed the consistency. I enjoyed how much it felt like I was shooting a Glock 19. The trigger pull was really nice. The sight alignment was great. It's everything you'd expect out of a Glock. It felt reliable. It shot well. Definitely great in regards to training with blinking. As we made our way down range, though, I noticed that the shots were not super consistent. I was getting a little bit more accuracy when I was closer up, but it seems like the Glock 44, when we're pushed out to further ranges, does start to spread out a little bit, which is to be expected with a 22 caliber pistol. The Glock definitely does not put out a crazy accurate pistol. Some of that could be on me as a shooter, some of it could be the gun. I'd have to put more rounds through it to know. But for now, this is what we're seeing. A general grouping, but nothing crazy consistent or accurate here. We're here 7 yards away. Sarah shot at the number 1 here, and you can see it actually performed really, really well. It was super consistent, super accurate. She hasn't shot a ton of pistols. When she has shot a 9mm, it's had a little bit of recoil. It's been harder for her to stay consistent. But with the low recoil on the 22, she felt really comfortable. She was able to focus on her marksmanship, her consistency, and just her overall training with the firearm. She had a really good time and enjoyed it. So this would definitely make for a really good beginner or younger shooter, or even just a female that doesn't love the recoil at the range. She had a good time, and she obviously performed really, really well.
Okay.
Welcome back to the classroom, everybody. We're going to go over our review and opinion of the Glock 44 now. I'm coming at you from a perspective that's not crazy biased. I really like to try to make these videos as simple as possible. They're tailored to just the average customer on the market. I don't have a specific niche, right? I've had experience in law enforcement myself. I've trained with many different personnel, from military, law enforcement, to just your average civilian. I just want to encompass a review and a shooting video that is tailored to really anybody. So I'm not going to dive into the specifics of would this gun be good for this, and this category, but I am going to overall go over what categories I think this gun would be useful for, and also some maybe negatives to just overall any customer of this firearm. And you can take that information and apply it to your individual situations. First, I'm going to go over the pros. This gun on the outside and physically in my hand feels exactly like the Glock 19. I love that, because if I am one that trains with a Glock 19 or owns a Glock 19, or even any Glock, right, they all are fairly consistent, it's gonna be a really nice trainer. That being said, and I'm gonna flip over to one of my cons now, it doesn't have the same weight, which throws me off a little bit. It does. It's not like a game changer for me. For others it might be, but it is half the weight of a full-size firearm, or just a normal firearm. This again is around 30 ounces. This is about 14 ounces with a loaded magazine. Another thing to point out, the magazine, it feels quite consistent to a Glock magazine. I think that's a huge pro. I really enjoy that for training. That is really nice. That being said, it's only got 10 rounds in here. That's kind of a con for me, and I think that they could have done a little bit better. I get so many more rounds out of a Glock 19. I can get up to 15 rounds in a Glock 19, but I can only get 10 out of this Glock 44, which has 22 caliber. 22 is pretty small. You'd think they'd be able to figure out a way to work that into here. I realize that they kind of have to do a single stack, and there's a double stack on a Glock 19, but I'd love for Glock to be able to do something a little bit more there, especially if it's going to be used as a trainer, and even just as a fun range toy. I'd like more rounds, or maybe even an extended magazine. I'd have to look into that. That is one con. Again, a pro and a con with the magazine. It's consistent to a Glock feeling magazine, but it doesn't have enough rounds. I think they could have done a little bit better there. Maybe that's just me being petty, but again, when it comes to training, I think that would be nice. A few more trainers, and really just the purpose of why I think one would buy this gun. And I want to give it a positive review. There's a few cons and negatives that I've obviously explained, and I'll explain a couple more, but overall, it feels like a Glock, it shoots like a Glock, the trigger feels like a Glock, and it looks like a Glock. It's gonna fit in any holster. It's gonna be a great trainer. It's gonna save you money on the range because you're not gonna have to run 9mm. It's going to feel and perform fairly similarly to your Glock 19. And for the most part, you're gonna get a lot of value out of this gun in regards to training. That being said, like I said, the only negative is probably that weight and the round count that I could foresee. Another thing that I noticed when I was shooting this out in the range, which I kind of mentioned when I was out there and you probably saw, was consistency in shooting and accuracy went down at longer ranges. If you're planning on just doing a lot of training on close combat, might be good for you, but if you're honestly looking to have more fun at longer ranges or push yourself at longer ranges or plink at longer ranges, I can't promise this is going to be as consistent or accurate as maybe another 22 pistol on the market. It seems like this gun is definitely tailored for a replica of the Glock 19. It's going to be consistent, it's going to be fun, but in regards to marksmanship and accuracy and plinking, I don't know if it's going to be the best at longer ranges. On the flip side, another reason I would see somebody buying this gun would be for younger shooters or just for plinkers. Someone that just wants something in their range bag that they can pull out. It's a familiar, easy platform to shoot, and it's super fun to just shoot cans and targets with. But again, probably not at further distances. We're talking maybe between 5 and 15 yards is what you're gonna get some consistent accuracy with this gun. So one more time, if I'm walking through my pros and cons. Pros, it's pretty consistent to the Glock 19. It's an exact replica to a certain extent. You don't have that same weight, that's a con. You don't have the same round count in the magazine, that's a con. Pro, the magazine does feel very similar. Pro, this is gonna be a great useful gun to save money on the range, to train, for beginner shooters, for female shooters, and just for anyone that wants a fun plinking gun up to 15 yards. Again, I haven't shot that much through it, so there's probably a lot more to say on this gun from someone that's maybe put 500 to 1,000 rounds through it. But from my experience today with this firearm, that's what I've had to offer to you. I'm super excited to hopefully shoot this more. I'm probably gonna be picking one up on my own here soon. I really enjoy shooting it. My fiance loves shooting it, and that's probably why I'll buy one, is to give her something to shoot at the range. I appreciate you guys showing up today. If you enjoy review and shooting videos, please go ahead and subscribe and like this. If you have any questions that I can answer, go ahead and drop them in the comments below, and we'll see you next time.